there's no change room in the seating. Okay, before we begin, we're going to try and leave the door open so the folks outside can hear this. Okay, but I'm going to ask there be no cheering or applause or things like that because it slows us down. Okay, if that occurs in the lobby, then the door is going to become closed because we want to focus on our conversation here today. We have a bit of a time limit. We have 1/2 hour. We have 1/2. We have 1/2 hour. So we're going to time speakers at 1 minute each, okay? Now when you speak, if you'd like to leave the room then, that could allow somebody else to come in if you like, or you can just take a seat elsewhere in the room. We all good on all that? All right, thank you very kindly. We ready to go? All right, very good. Good afternoon, my name is Representative Mike Bonder and I am the Chair of the Public Safety Committee and I'm here today joined by my colleagues Sam Windgren, Representative, and Representative Eric Jurdy, for a subcommittee meeting and hearing with regard to House Study Bill 552, a bill for an act restricting counties and cities from issuing a local form of identification. At this point in time, we would welcome the community to step up to a microphone, state your name, and then share your thought. And those two chairs down there at the end are reserved for those that are wanting to speak.
You're a fucking Nazi and shame on you for this racist, fascist legislation. Fucking Nazi. Fucking Nazi.
Yes, the intention is to speak from down there. At the end of the table, so the camera can.
Is it okay?
Yes, go ahead. Those two chairs need to be reserved for those that are speaking. I thought those two ladies were going to speak.
They are.
Okay, then when you complete, then you'll have to exit that seat.
Okay.
All right.
You can go.
Again, if you state your name and you'll have 1 minute, please.
Okay. My name is Serenity Delgado. I'm a resident at Johnson County, and I'm here to clarify what the Johnson County Community ID is and what it is not. A community ID is a local and limited form of identification. It does not replace a driver's license or a state ID. It does not grant immigration status or federal benefits, and it cannot be used for federal purposes. Community IDs cannot be used to board an airplane, vote, prove employment eligibility, or purchase alcohol or age-restricted things. What they're meant to do is much simpler. Community IDs help people identify themselves in local everyday situations, such as interacting with schools, cities, or county offices, emergency services, and law enforcement. They can also include emergency contact or medical information, which can be critical during a crisis. Um, and this program exists because there are people in our community, including U.S. born residents, who do not have access to state issued identification, including seniors who no longer drive, or people who've lost documents due to fires, floods, or other disasters, and individuals experiencing homelessness. Community IDs reduce fear and then make it easier for people to communicate.
Thank you, that is time. And please, sir, to my right here, would you please have a seat? Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Gazahar Saleh. I'm the Executive Director of Immigrant Welcome Network of Johnson County. As an immigrant who led a number of organizations working locally to house people and access services for community safety. I am here today with many people from Johnson County because we think community ID cards are a local tools created to address local needs. They do not grant federal benefit, cannot be used for federal purposes, and do not replace state issue ID. Their purposes is limited and practical to allow people to identify themselves safely in everyday situation. From our experience on the ground, the most important impact on community ID is public safety. When the people do not have any form of identification, they are far less likely to come forward and witness crime, not because they don't care, because they are afraid to be detained, to be mistreated. When as a few years ago, after a tragic accidents where a body found on the dead, nobody come out because they're afraid.
Time. Thank you. Next, please.
Following Maz, my name is Tun Lam. After our community implemented a local community ID, we saw a shift. People felt safer identifying themselves. Witnesses came forward. Community members were willing to speak and cooperate. That outcome benefited families, law enforcement, and public safety. It was a win for everyone. Community IDs help build trust, and trust leads to cooperation. Cooperation helps police do their job more effectively and helps communities stay safer. Eliminating a county's ability to offer a community ID does not improve safety, it undermines it. For many residents, including immigrants, seniors who no longer drive, people who have lost documents, and individuals experiencing homelessness, a community ID is often the only identification they have. HSB 552 also raises concerns about local control. Cities and counties are closest to their residents and best positioned to help understand what tools are effective. Community ID programs are optional, limited in scope, and locally supported. This bill would remove that flexibility without addressing a demonstrated statewide problem. We are not asking you to create a new program. We are simply asking you to not take away the tool that is already working.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Maria Gonzalez. I am a community organizer for Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice. Part of the work that I do is I travel throughout the state of Iowa and I get to meet community members. And from looking at the communities that have a community ID right now in place, like many of them have shared the numbers and the facts behind what a community ID is, I would like to share a story that I was told. This is from a mom that had to flee her home. And as she was getting ready to leave and having to make this terrible and tragic choice, her spouse found out and threatened her. And so at that moment, she had to take her children and leave. She left with the clothes that she had on her back and nothing else. To provide services for her, to find the necessary programs that would be able to help her required identification. And thanks to the community ID, that was something that we were able to provide for her until she was able to get, again, her state ID. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Hi, my name is Haitham Osman. I work closely with individuals and family in Johnson County who rely on local service. One of the biggest barrier people face is lack of identification. Without ID, people struggle to access to the local service, interact with the school or housing office, communicate with the emergency responders. Community ID help bridge that gap. They give people a way to identify themselves and engage responsible with local institutions. From service provider perspective, community ID reduce the confusion, delay, and fear. They help people solve problems early instead of waiting until situations become emergencies. This is especially important for people experience homelessness, survivors of violence, and families in crisis. HSB 552 would remove tools that make service delay safer and more effective. Please allow communities to continue using solutions that help people stabilize their lives and continue positive.
Thank you. Sir?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Tawhid Ismail. I am a parent and a member of the Johnson County community. For families like mine, community ID cards are about caring for our children and elders safely. When emergencies happen, parents need to act quickly, without fear, without it is picking up a child, whether it is picking up a child going to a clinic or speaking to emergency responders, identification matters. Without an ID, many parents hesitate to ask for help. They worry that doing the right thing could put their family at risk. Community IDs do not change immigration status. They do not provide federal benefits. They simply allow families to function and keep their loved ones safe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, members of the subcommittee. Cody Carlson with the Iowa League of Cities. We provided a paper amendment. We are registered undecided on this bill. Feedback from our policy committee was a little concerned with public recreation facilities specifically. Had the opportunity to discuss this with subcommittee chair Vondran, and apologize wasn't able to get with Wengren and Garrity prior to the subcommittee. Proposed amendment would just simply allow, in addition to city employee badging and for access, would also open that up for public recreation facilities for communities that have those public rec ID cards and stuff associated with that.
Representative Judy, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as far as the League of Cities is concerned, you mentioned getting access to public recreation facilities. Are there other things that cities use IDs for, like transportation or anything like that?
The feedback from our policy committee was focused on the public recreation facilities. I'm happy to follow up with our legislative policy committee and get you some information as far as
I would be
transportation.
interested in that because I do believe that, like the city of Cedar Rapids, for example, particularly maybe for youth, have IDs for public transportation. So I would be curious about that.
Certainly, I'm happy to follow up with that and send that to the subcommittee.
That'd be appreciated. Thank you very much. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Fatma Hamid, and I'm a community member in Johnson County. I would like to speak today about safety, responsibility, and care for one another. In every community, there are 3 moments when people need help: when they witness a crime, when there's an accident, or where a neighbor is in danger. For those moments, trust matters. When people do not have identification, fear takes over. People hesitate to call for help, they hesitate to speak to the police, and they hesitate to come forward as witnesses, even when they want to do the right thing. Community IDs reduces the fear. They give people a way to identify themselves and participate in keeping the community safe. It's not about immigration status, and it's definitely not about federal policy. This is about whether people feel safe enough to step forward. Removing community IDs sends the opposite message. It tells people to stay quiet, stay invisible, and stay away. That does not protect Iowa communities. I respectfully ask you to oppose the HSB 552 and allow local governments to continue using tools that encourages cooperation, responsibility, and safety. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sir?
Good morning. My name is Reynaldo Gill, and I'm coming from Johnson County, and I'm try to represent the older people on the Johnson County area. And we like to see if we can continue to keep on our community the only ID they can afford it right now, because some older people, they lost their license either for healthy, or they lose, or they just don't have it anymore. They lost it. And I would like to encourage to see if there's any way we can keep just having this program to have all these people have access to still get in their ID community, because it's very important for them to keep on a daily basis dealing with, all kinds of facilities where they have to represent themselves and they don't have one. So it's very important for try to see if we can avoid to keep this bill passing as H 552 in order for these people to have a better dignity way to represent themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Sarah Green, Executive Director for the Iowa Environmental Council, registered opposed. The Iowa Environmental Council is the state's largest environmental coalition with nearly 100 member organizations. We've been working to build a just, safe, and healthy future for all Iowans for 30 years. We cannot preserve and protect our natural environment with also recognizing the dignity of all people in Iowa. We believe in justice, that all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, and national origin, deserve equal protection under the law. This includes not just rights to clean air and water, but to the promise of a livable future. This bill would increase barriers for community members by limiting access to locally issued identification used to access government or community programs. It would erode trust within communities and make it more difficult to engage in the most underserved members of our communities and to achieve our shared goals of a safe, healthy environment for all people in Iowa. People who are fearful of leaving their homes, accessing healthcare institutions, or even traveling to their workplaces or schools. They cannot meaningfully participate in our environment, our economy, or our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir?
Thank you. My name is.
There you go.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Dingao with the Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice. When I was seated today, I've changed almost everything that I prepared because I've noticed everyone who passed to address you, they carry something. I will say 4 words: fear, doubt, feels marginalized, and uncertainty of life. Taking away ideas, our community ideas, is killing our personality, is making us disappear on this earth. We are not just here to speak our speech, but we are here to express our fear. We are here carrying 1,000 voices of people that are hiding in their houses like rats and they do not know how to speak. This privilege that has been given to us is to address to you that you have the power to make things right and to think about people who are dying inside. Because even the Bible says it is by the abundance of the heart that our mouth speaks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, there you go.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Sarah Terlau. I'm the Executive Director with the International Rescue Committee in Iowa. So I just want to re-emphasize that the community IDs are simply a practical tool. They help people verify who they are in everyday situations, even picking up a prescription, opening a library account, helpfully identifying themselves to law enforcement. These IDs do not change anyone's legal status or grant access to federal benefits. They help communities function smoothly. From a public safety perspective, identification helps law enforcement to do their jobs more efficiently. When individuals can verify their identity, routine interactions take less time, are more secure, and people are more willing to report crimes or assist with investigations. So to re-emphasize what others have said. There's also a local control component. Iowa communities vary widely, and local leaders often know the best tools to help them in their context and their cities and counties. Iowa employers consistently express the need for more workers. When residents can verify their identity, they can participate more fully in training, onboarding, and community life, which strengthens the local economy at no cost to the state. The intention behind these IDs is not political, it's practical.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please.
I'm Dorothy Knorr from Grinnell, Iowa. There have been excellent.
Dorothy, could I have you lean a little bit forward to the microphone? Thank you.
I am Dorothy Knorr from Grinnell, Iowa. There have been excellent speakers and reasons to maintain the community ID It is a safety measure. It also is a compassionate measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Yes.
Hi, my name is Tracy Rulin Petty. I live here in Des Moines, and I'm here today as an Iowan and a Christian who works for the Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Iowa. I am against this bill, not only because it overreaches into things that are already working in our local governments, but because as a Christian, the two great commandments we have are to love God and love neighbor. Bills like these undermine safety of things that actually work. It's been shown that municipal IDs decrease crime and increase reporting. So anything that removes safety is not loving our neighbors as we should. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, members of the subcommittee. Nick Laning here representing the Iowa Emergency Management Association. We sent you some comments earlier today. Our concerns are a little different than what you've heard so far, but it's in disaster response. So a lot counties across the state use temporary IDs in disaster response zones for utility workers, damage assessors, contractors, volunteers, nonprofit partners. So we have concerns that because the language is fairly broad, that this would impact the ability in a disaster zone to issue temporary IDs that could be issued by the county or the city. Thanks for your consideration.
Next, please.
Good afternoon. I'm the Reverend Steve Seek. I live here in Des Moines. I want to thank you all for your public service. It's a hard job. I'm here because I feel I need to speak out against this bill. As our previous people have mentioned, love your neighbor, welcome the stranger for you or once a stranger. I can't make it less clear than that. We have a moral obligation. We speak about the legal concerns, but I'm here to speak that morally we have to look ourselves in the face and say what we're doing is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next, please.
I'm Lucas Binkin with the Iowa State Association of Counties. We're registered undecided, taking just a little different approach. We don't have a position on community ID. However, locally elected officials, in particular boards of supervisors, are elected to make decisions for their communities, identify those needs and take those steps to address those. So we'd ask for your consideration when you're looking at prohibitions to be able to consider that our communities are unique, and sometimes those local elected officials are making decisions that perhaps aren't contemplated statewide. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Roberts Cleban. I'm from Poweshiek County, and I've just come to reiterate what those who use community IDs, who rely on community IDs have said before me, that they make communities safer, they facilitate easy integration into public safety systems, interact with the police, interact with services, schools, and really I see no reason in the eyes of the average Iowan why those who are using systems that work should have them taken away. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I'm the Reverend Heather Walkendorf. I serve a church in Urbandale, and I lived in Adel growing up, and I was always proud of how inclusive our little town was. I was taught by my grandmother when legislation was happening to question, how does this make Iowa better? How does this legislation make Iowa better? How does this legislation make it more welcoming to the neighbor, which is our Christian calling? How does this legislation make it more possible for people who have come to our community to thrive, to feel connected? How does this legislation help those who are new feel like this is a place that they can thrive? If those are the words that we have as our state motto, then it's time for us to have laws that make it possible for people to thrive. And that begins by having a sense of belonging, whether that be a state ID or a local ID. We should leave it up to the local officials to determine how they build their communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
You need to turn the mic on.
Oh.
There you go.
Now can you hear me? Okay,
No,
good. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy schedules. I'm Victoria Britton, and I'm from here in Polk County. And I've dedicated the last 15 years of my life helping underserved Iowans access vital cancer screenings, which we know is a big deal here in Iowa. Folks already have a lot of barriers accessing healthcare, food, and housing. And as we think about how does that apply to this legislation, it restricts a lot in their lives. It just adds another barrier on top of another barrier of what they have going on. Why would we do that? Why would we make it more difficult? And so I ask each of you, what are you doing this legislative session to make Iowa better? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mayra Moriel de Bañuelos, and I work for the Catholic Diocese of Des Moines. I coordinate the Hispanic ministry, and I work with many communities from different nationalities. And I know that sometimes their IDs are very complex. You can imagine, every country has their own way. So I believe that the community ID brings a standardized way to identify them, and that brings dignity too. I know that Iowa has a history of welcoming state, and I would like to keep that. You know, it's we would like to keep those principles. So I would appreciate if you continue this. I was hoping that instead of restricting, we can open it to the whole state. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. We have time for two more.
Hi.
You're second to last.
My name is April Pearson Decklever, and I'm from Des Moines. I'm opposed to this bill to restrict community IDs because immigrants are vital members of our community. I'd like to address some of the anti-immigrant rhetoric that's been floating around for a long time. First of all, undocumented immigrants commit less than half the violent crimes of native-born U.S. citizens. The source for this is our own U.S. Department of Justice. Undocumented immigrants do not get government-funded social benefits like SNAP and Medicaid. The source I have for this is the Kaiser Family Foundation. And immigrants pay $1.8 billion in total taxes per year in our state, and that's according to the American Immigration Council. So they offer basically free money for our state. They are not any more violent than native-born Iowans, and most importantly, they're my friends. And I care about them, and I want them in my life. They make Iowa better for me, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sir, you'll be our last speaker.
Hi, my name is Zishan Maidani. I'm just a regular person from Polk County. I'm not with any organization specifically today. I've lived in Iowa 9 years now, and some of these policies, are interesting. But looking at this one, came out today, and it talks about referencing, I think, section code 321M, and that points to a non-operator's license. That points to section 321.190 in the Iowa code. And what's interesting is that not only does this idea of you can issue it to people with disabilities, knowing that people with disabilities are severely underdiagnosed. I mean, we could have a huge hospital run on let's get everyone diagnosed with their disabilities, including mental health stuff, and get a community card. In the 321.190 section, there's a point where it references foreign nationals, and it even has a non-driving license operators. You can issue this license for a non-operator license to foreign nationals for the period for as long as they're here for up to 2 years. So it feels like this is stepping on those toes, especially when section 321M covers so much about a CDL and stuff. I think there's more time that can be spent on discrimination for people with disabilities and making sure we take care of them in the fold as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Journey, do you have any comments you'd like to add before we adjourn?
I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. One thing that I noticed was absent from today is that, and I don't know if it was because of time or because of the way that it happened, but I didn't hear anybody that spoke in favor of this legislation. I think that too often we in Des Moines get so focused on what happens here under the Golden Dome and forget to realize that we have different municipalities, cities and counties and townships that are working independently and working well. And a lot of times we want to legislate here in Des Moines what happens elsewhere, and it doesn't always work for every community. Cedar Rapids is very different than Spencer, is very different than Council Bluffs, is very different than Olin. And somebody spoke about the Board of Supervisors and that they're duly elected, and city councils are duly elected. And if a county supervisor, our Board of Supervisors, or a city council decides that they're doing what's best for their community, maybe we need to let them do that.
I am a police officer in the city of Cedar Rapids, and I patrol central Cedar Rapids. And there are times that I will come across an individual who is in medical need, and I see them laying down, and I call for fire and area ambulance to come to their aid. Meanwhile, I am trying to provide medical service and identify who they are. Oftentimes, they don't have an ID, and I'm looking for a debit card or a credit card or anything with their name on it, so I can give that to the EMTs that show up. So when they take them to the hospital, hopefully the hospital may have a record of them and will know if there's any medication allergies or anything that they need to know in order to best treat this person. We have worked with IDs, in school IDs, employee IDs, university IDs, for as long as I've been around. And I haven't seen particularly any issues with that. So in the name of like local control, I would prefer that we table this and understand what ultimately this is solving, because I don't know that it is solving any issue that I particularly have as a resident of Lynn County, Cedar Rapids, or as a peace officer in Iowa.
Thank you, Representative Jurdy. Representative Wingren?
I'll be quick. As Representative Jurdy alluded to, I'm from a small rural community in Iowa. I figure that I'm trying to figure out the purpose of community ID when it's just as likely I get a non-operational ID. If the thing is, I also work in a bank, and I know about the Bank Secrecy Act, which requires a form of identification. If community ID would be able to open a bank account, help you prove who you are, I think that the non-operational ID would be sufficient for most cases. So I will go ahead and I will vote in favor of this bill.
Thank you both. Personally, I'd like to thank you all for coming out today. Sincerely appreciate you making the time and taking the effort to come share your thoughts and perspectives with us. Please believe me when I say it is valued, it is appreciated. This discussion appears to have lots of items of concern. And as a result of that, I am going to move this forward to a greater committee discussion, because I believe it's worthy of some further consideration, some further comment, and some more learning. We've got a little bit of listening to do, but the end goal is always to try and provide what we believe is going to be the best outcome for all Iowans. And that includes everybody in this room. I know sometimes it's hard to believe that when you see what you see in the media and the press, but I assure you, no one in this building is working against you. Not a single soul that I know of. I can promise you that. But we are seeking a better opportunity for everyone. We're trying to seek an opportunity for cooperation and clarity and to keep Iowans safe. That is the focus of the Public Safety Committee. What must we do to provide a safe environment and a safe Iowa? That's our focus singularly. And in that spirit, again, as I said, I'll be signing on this. We'll move forward to the next committee, and you'll certainly have another opportunity to share further thought. Thank you very much for coming. We adjourn this meeting.